Hey everybody, this is Comic Mistakes, the home of the podcast Comic Mistakes, the YouTube videos Comic Mistakes, and the other podcast Theme Team Problems. We're here to talk about comic books, specifically me, your host today, Randy Gomez, and we're going to talk about Exiles today. Now, we're going to start at the beginning of Exiles, because that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the first two issues because I feel that they set up the rest of the series really well and they just set up a good story. Now, what I mean by that is that in two issues, they were able to set up the concept really well and they were able to show the consequences of the reality that these characters are in now. So let's just get started. Now, in this story, the exiles are comprised of characters from different realities, and they've all come together. They've all been brought together by this time broker. And when they first come together, some of them recognize other characters like Blink and Morph and Mimic and such. But, they don't realize the implication of all of them being from different realities. That in some worlds, for example, Nightcrawler isn't, like 60 years old and running the X mansion. So this first bit of time, they just haven't gotten the scope of the situation they're in, and that's what I want to talk about. I guess more specifically, they don't understand the gravity of the situation they're in yet. They don't understand the big scope of what they're doing, and then they are told what they have to do. Uh, there are hiccups in reality that they have to fix, or they won't be able to go back to their home dimensions. Because as far as they know, if they don't fix the different timelines for a certain amount of time, their realities are going to stay messed up, or more messed up. It's kind of like I don't know, a dimensional suicide squad or something like that, where you have to spend a certain amount of time before you're able to come home. And after they're told all this information, they're given the Talus, which tells them what to do in each dimension, and it becomes a fixture of the rest of the Exile stories from this point on. And yeah, that's the basic premise of Exiles. A bunch of people from different dimensions having to fix other realities so they have the opportunity to go home at some point. Now, as far as I know, it's kind of like Quantum Leap, a show I haven't seen because I'm not that old, so I'm going to equate it more to Sliders because that's slightly more contemporary to me. Now, at this point, before they get sent to their first world to fix, we're given a short introduction to each of those characters, and that is a very important scene because we get at least a little glimpse into each of those characters. We only know one of them from the multiverse, Blink, because she was in Age of Apocalypse. Now these other ones, we have no clue about, and they're each given like a certain amount of screen time and a good amount of setup for the world and like the possibilities of each of those like dimensions. Now this is what brings me to talking about this. The characters had to learn consequences because at this point they don't have that. And the consequences come for two characters at the end of issue 2. Specifically, though, we're going to talk about Magnus and his sacrifice. Now, Magnus comes from a universe where he is the son of Rogue and Magneto. And so he's a very powerful character. It's said that he has better mastery of magnetism than his father even did. And at the end of issue 2, Magnus sacrifices himself. And I feel that is essential for the team to realize the weight of what's happening to them. The reason I think this is because up until that point, they were making constant mistakes because of what they assumed that this world that they're now in was going to be like. Because when the Talus told them to go find the great teacher, they, most of them at least, automatically assumed it would be Charles Xavier. And us as the readers, it's like, yeah, that's a no-brainer too, because, we're used to the 616 Marvel Universe where he's, the leader of the X-Men. They can't conceive of a world that's not how things work. That, there's staples for their world, like characters like Charles Xavier, wouldn't be as altruistic and great as they are. And because of that, this leads to them making constant mistakes throughout the story. And the big mistake that they make in the end of the first issue is freeing Charles Xavier from his prison. They were ignorant to the fact that Charles in this world is a mass murderer. He's a psychopath who wants to kill all humanity. And it's not like a Magneto thing where it's like, I want to kill all humans and leave just mutants. He's like, it seems like just everyone. And so when they free him, Charles immediately kills 250,000 people. And yeah, they're bad. It's Exiles bad. They made the big mistake. And then that's when they realize, well, they got to get rid of their old ideas of the people they care about. And for some of these people, they have to get rid of the concept of optimistic world. Like Mimic, for example, his world is a lot more brighter and less of a downer than a lot of the worlds that they're going to. And, luckily Mimic does get the message pretty quick, because he is the one who is forced to kill Charles before he kills any more people, because he knows that Charles is serious about doing that. That's a very important turning point for Mimic's character, and we could explore that in a different thing, but right now I want to get back to Magnus. Now in issue 2, they realized that the great teacher that they were meant to go find was Magneto, so Magnus's father. When they realized that Magneto is actually the great teacher that they were looking for, this visibly shakes Magnus. It seems to make him sad, the fact that he didn't realize that his own father could be the great hero that they were looking for. And then after that, they go to the prison to try to free him, but then they are met with a bomb specifically meant to kill Magneto, an atomic bomb made of ceramics. Now, they don't have a lot of options because the bomb's about to explode, so Magnus does a selfless thing, and he saves everybody in this prison and contains the blast of the atomic bomb. Now, this is a huge show of power that I'm pretty sure even Magneto wouldn't be able to do, so it's a testament to how powerful this character is. But unfortunately, he does die to save everybody, including this version of his father. He only tells the team to not tell Magneto that he is his alternate reality son. Now, he's not being naive about the fact that this isn't his real father, but he can see the possibilities that his father has. The possibility of good that he has when he turns away from his life of evil. Because in his world, Magneto was evil at one point and turned to good. So he knows that he's capable of doing that on his own. And he could do a lot of great things if he doesn't even fall into his demons beforehand, and he just goes straight to being a good guy from the beginning. And I feel there's something very powerful in that. And it does come up later again in other stories in this book about the redemption of characters. Like, there's a point where Mimic feels like he can't be redeemed anymore. He's shed too much blood, like we see in this one issue. But Magnus would, I think, say otherwise. He would say, no, there can be good in people. And yeah, that is a big thing in later issues. And again, I would love to talk about this. I've read basically, I think, almost every issue of Exiles, including all the different runs. I missed some of Claremont's runs, but that's a different thing. Now, Judd Winick, the writer of the story, kind of beautifully sets up these characters with very vivid backstories, or at least snippets of vivid backstories, just enough for us to think that they could believably stay in this story. Like, you don't think necessarily that any of these characters are gonna die in the first arc, but then that's exactly what happens. Like, I didn't think that Magnus would die, or that he would die so quickly. And maybe that's just me, you know, I I follow what the writer says most of the time very well. I'm in the story, and so like I'm not thinking about it from a writing point of view. But I think it was done very well and believable. And also, rereading it, I was reminded of another X-Men character who died very early on, Thunderbird. And I don't know if it was an intentional callback to that, but it feels like it kind of is. Just to set up the stakes of these stories and to show that any of these new characters, that their time could end at any point. And that was a smart idea then, and it was a smart callback now. And the reason I think it's intentional is that, well, Thunderbird is in this story, at least a version of him. So it makes me think, oh, yeah, he probably did that on purpose. If anything, he was more of a red herring. But yeah, that's all I want to talk about in this first story arc. I just thought it was very well done, and I think I'll talk about later, big shifts in the story. I think specifically I want to talk about when the original writer leaves, and I think it was Chuck Austin. Yeah, I want to come back to talk about this more, especially when Chuck Austin comes in as the new writer and the big changes that happen there. Also, when Claremont takes over, and then the new exiles, and then the other new exiles. And there's actually in continuity reasons for why all these stories are slightly different, which I thought was ingenious. But again, that is for a different time. I'll be glad to talk about it, And yeah, thank you for listening. This was Comic Mistakes. We'll be back next week, probably with a new podcast. After that, a new comic book video like this. Thank you for listening. See you next time. Oh, wait. Follow us on Insta. Check us out on Spotty. And check us up on the tunes. I would style. Oh, also, we have a Facebook now. Yeah. So, thanks for listening. Bye.